Have you ever felt like you were crying on the inside while smiling on the outside?
Without a doubt. There are some times clearly in my life's journey where I was not feeling well and I had to keep up appearances because life demanded it. What about for you?
Definitely. I mean, I think there have been times where things looked good on paper. The successful career, the nice house, but internally feeling like things just weren't quite aligned.
Yeah, I remember a really distinct time in my life, similar to you, where everything on paper and from an appearance standpoint looked impeccable, right? Like I had reached a pretty high pinnacle of my career. I had a lot of career capital, so I thought, that was going well. My family dynamics appeared to be really pretty and beautiful. And I remember driving into work every day in tears, like just crying. I was talking to my best friend. She worked out of the country. And I just remember just calling and driving and crying. And I didn't realize at the time that I was depressed, but I was functioning really in a high way, so high functioning depression. And so I think that's part of what we're going to be talking about today, right?
Definitely.
My name is Summer Esquerre, and I'm an ICF Somatic Leadership Coach and former executive.
And I'm Dr. Reba Peoples, board-certified psychiatrist, functional medicine practitioner, and emotional wellness strategist.
And together we created Smart Wellness to help gifted, high-achieving Black professionals stop surviving success and start living it from a place of alignment, rest, and self-trust.
This podcast blends neuroscience, somatic healing, and cultural wisdom to offer real embodied wellness, not just wellness that looks good on paper.
Now, the topic that we're about to get into is really sensitive, and we want to make sure that you all take it slow. And if it feels like it's not something that you're comfortable with watching right now or listening to, please hit pause and do not go any further. We also want to make sure that you realize that this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. So any advice, discussions that we have, please go back to your medical, helping professional, therapist, or coach to seek additional guidance for your unique situation. So let's get into it, Dr. Reba. High functioning depression. What is that?
So oftentimes people can have very significant symptoms of depression, but mask those symptoms in order to get through their day-to-day lives. So people may juggle, home responsibilities, career responsibilities, but internally maybe really struggling. So some of the signs of depression would be, more than just feeling sad. Sometimes there can be, difficulties with, sleep. That's one of the first things that often tends to get disrupted when people are, struggling with depression. There may be changes in appetite. So either, overeating, or sometimes people lose their appetite. So we can see, weight fluctuations when people are dealing with depression. There may be just, lack of motivation. So lack of desire to do things that you typically enjoy doing, or having less enjoyment out of the things that typically have, brought joy. We can also see social isolation. So really, withdrawing from the people that you typically enjoy spending time with. And sometimes those symptoms can reach a point where people even start to feel hopeless, or really may feel that life isn't necessarily worth living.
So let's get into it from our lived experience as Black people and gifted, high achieving Black people. You are a doctor, right? You are a unicorn, a magical unicorn in our society. right? And so also, I want us to be able to talk about the real things of how when we might not be feeling good or it gets to depression, that it's really difficult to discuss it with our peers, discuss it in our families, because again, on paper, you look successful. So, what are you complaining about? What is the problem? Right? Like, you just need to get yourself together. I used to say that. Like, I would be in the mirror, like, get yourself together. But it's not really a matter of getting yourself together. It's deeper than that. It requires more. What are some of those things that we should do when we're noticing this, especially given our community and historical dynamics?
I mean, and when I think about emotional wellness, I tend to think about things in terms of almost three legs of a stool. And if any one of those legs is missing or off balance, then the entire thing can kind of topple over. So the first leg of the stool is really lifestyle. So what are the things that we're doing for ourselves to make sure we're as healthy as possible? So that's where those, smart wellness strategies come into play. So things like, are you getting enough sleep? Are you moving your body? Is there an awareness practice? Do you know who you are? And how are you feeding yourself? So thinking about, tailoring inputs. The second leg of the stool is biology. So, is there anything physiologically going on that might be impacting how we're feeling emotionally? So, everything from micronutrient imbalances to gut health issues, hormonal imbalances. A lot of us are at that age where we're perimenopausal, so those hormonal shifts can really wreak havoc emotionally. Sometimes even things like infections or toxins can, trigger inflammatory responses in the brain. So it is important to do that thorough, biological workup when we are dealing with depression as well. Um, then the last leg of the stool really is around those deeper issues, identity, meaning, purpose. Essentially, are you living a life that's in alignment with your personal highest values? Because you can take, all the supplements in the world, drink all the green tea smoothies, but if you're not living a life that's in alignment with your values, then you're still going to struggle. So it is important to make sure that all of those pieces are aligned, so that you are able to feel and function your best.
And that feels like a lot of work when somebody already is not feeling well,
Mhm.
right? And they have all of the other things in life going on, which could lead to social isolation, right? And removing yourself. So, what are some of the maybe not quick hit, because this is not a quick hit thing, but what are some of the things that we can do when we don't have the energy to do all of those things?
I mean, and healing does happen in community. So reaching out to someone, and not, holding this alone. So I think a lot of times the sort of shame comes when we blame ourselves and feel like we're just not strong enough to push through. So it can be really difficult to even admit or acknowledge that we're struggling. So, reaching out to someone is one, first step. And also, getting professional help. So be that, a therapist, a psychiatrist. So sometimes having that additional outside support can be the thing that helps you, develop a framework for being able to take things step by step, in order to really get to a point where you're able to feel better.
So, what about spiritual practice? What would you suggest in that arena for folks? Is it, talking to their pastor if they subscribe to religions that are Abrahamic in faith? Is it doing other things? Is it meditating? Are there things that you could suggest from a spiritual perspective?
I mean, and again, that depends on the individual. So someone who does have a, solid faith, and a, solid relationship with your pastor or pastoral counselor, that can be a great first step. And it is important to also, at least a good counselor will know when they're out of their league. So sometimes you can't just pray it away. Sometimes you do need a little bit of extra support. So knowing when that also needs to be incorporated is also important.
Yeah, I think that is really important. And I think the other thing, regardless of the faith practice that a person has, whether it's even a denial of a faith practice, is that we all have access to nature, right? Even if you're in an inner city, you still have the ability to walk outside and be in nature, because that is from all of the energy of anything that's been created, right? And so that's a place where folks can go. I think another thing that is really what has been helpful in my dealing with high functioning depression, I know that I've experienced it, I know that I've been in it, goes back to what you're saying. What are the areas in your life, the people that you can talk to, right? And you could even preface it as, hey, I either want to be, there's this thing that you could either be helped, heard, or hugged. And you can preface the conversation with the person, right? Like, I'm sharing with you not to problem solve, because that's what we do quite often, to try to fix a thing. But I'm coming to you because I want to be hugged, or I want to be heard so that I can get this out, right? And that practice in itself can really be transformative for folks. I know it's been helpful for me, and I know I've had to remind people who love me, we're not problem solving right now. And I'm not a problem to solve, and my depression isn't a problem to solve. It potentially is even a thing to move through, and that's something I am currently living with. So I know in my life and in my experience, and even coaching others, it's not necessarily solving the issue and coming up with quick fixes. This is something that's going to take time. In your practice, when you have talked to particularly gifted and high achieving professionals, what are some of the other challenges that we have given the way our brain works with dealing with high functioning depression?
Well, I think going back to something that you said about, your depression isn't a problem to solve. I think as, gifted, as high achievers, we want solutions. But I think it is important to really think about, what is your depression telling you? So I often say that symptoms are signals. So they're usually a signal that there is something that's out of alignment. So it could be, lifestyle choices. So if you're, eating, McDonald's every day and not exercising and, listening to, things that are negative and detrimental to your spirit, I mean, that's going to impact how you feel emotionally. Maybe it's something bigger. So maybe you are in a career that just isn't aligned to who you are. Maybe there is some real dissatisfaction in how you're moving through the world. And that depression is stepping in to tell you that, it's time to make some changes. So I do think that really taking the time to listen to what your body is telling you is really important.
And you talked about the T in the SMART framework, tailoring inputs. So talk a little bit more about what that means when you're referencing what you're putting in your body. You mentioned food. You mentioned information. Talk a little bit about what that means and how it can impact us.
Oh, for sure. So kind of when we think about tailoring inputs, food is important. So we want to make sure that we're feeding our bodies foods that are non-inflammatory. So if we're eating foods that are, highly processed, if there's a lot of sugar, chemical preservatives, artificial colors, those are all things that can trigger inflammation in the body. So we do want to eat foods that are as close to nature as possible. But we also want to think about, how we're feeding our minds, how we're feeding our spirits. We want to think about the quality of our relationships. So, what is the music that you're listening to? Social media is a big contributor. So, who are the accounts that you're following? What's, showing up in your algorithm? And a lot of times social media is really aspirational. So it triggers our sense of inadequacy and insecurity in order to, purchase whatever is being peddled. by said influencer. So really being aware of, who are the people that you're following, who are the people that you're allowing into your consciousness, and how do you feel when you are consuming this content. And then we want to really think about, the quality of our relationships. So who are the people that we're surrounding ourselves with? Are these people who, sometimes there are people that you just feel really good when you leave their presence. You just feel uplifted and motivated. And then there are other times where you leave someone's presence and you just feel depleted. So just paying attention to that and really deciding how you're going to spend your time.
Yeah, so like when you hang out with me, you feel great.
Of course.
I'm just playing. I feel great when I'm around you too. So one of the somatic practices that we're going to talk about today is actually going to be focused on tailoring inputs and movement. So what I invite you to do is to pick 5 songs that you absolutely love. They could be songs that invoke memories from your childhood. It can be like the latest banger right now. It doesn't matter, but it needs to be 5 songs that you love, right? Not the top 40, but what you love. And you pick a time once a week, particularly when you have some time, to just listen to those songs and move. So moving could be swaying, moving could be dancing, moving can be whatever. It could also be you going for a walk, but pick those 5 songs, listen to them in order, and move. Move however you're able to move. And again, the practices that we suggest and recommend always start with noticing, right? Being in the present moment and noticing what is going on. After that evening after you've done that, we invite you to just write 5 words, 5, of how you felt and what those songs meant to you. Do this for the next 2 months. It's only 5 songs once a week and movement with a quick journal prompt. Let us know what you think about it. Drop it in the chat. Drop it in the comments, and also reach out to us at www.smartwellnessglobal.com and let us know what you think about it. So we have really touched on a sensitive topic. I know it's stirring in me something like I'm feeling my heart right now, just going back to some of those times. Is there anything that you'd like to share with folks who may be going through this time of difficulty? It might be that they are depressed and high functioning, or it might just be a time where it's really hard for them. Do you have any words to help carry them, or any advice that you can give?
Really just recognizing that you're not alone. There are lots of people who do have similar challenges, and there is hope for feeling better. The important thing is acknowledging what's going on and really reaching out so that you can get the right support.
And if you are in a place where you feel that it is very dark, it is really important for you to reach out to your healthcare professional or for somebody in your life. Do not go it alone. If you found this episode worthwhile and you know someone who might be on a similar path or would need some support and some assistance, please feel free to share this episode. This is for everyone. We meet you where you are at, and we know from our own lived experience that when you feel this way, you don't necessarily stay this way. It's hard, but it will change. And that's the most important thing that we hope that we can leave you with, that it will change, it will not stay. So again, my name is Coach Summer. That's Dr. Reba. Please check us out at www.smartwellnessglobal.com. There you can see some of our offerings, from one-on-one coaching with one of us, our retreats, masterclass, or intensives. Continue to be well. Take care.